Well, hello everyone. I hope you're doing well today. Welcome to the topic of search engine optimization basics. Now, I know some of you may work in search engine optimization or you have been working on websites for a long time. So, what I'm going to present today will probably be very basic and likely you could probably teach this class better than I because you're doing it. And the reason I say this is that search engine optimization is a specialty within digital marketing, and it takes a lot of finesse and a lot of learning, testing and learning all of the time to become an expert in that field. So I am not an expert. I'm going to show you the basics, and if any of you want to help with teaching the class, please let me know. So let's get started. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to talk about search engine optimization, how they work, very basic. Then I want to spend some time discussing the Google algorithm, which really is what you need to pay attention to and how you are going to ensure that your website and your other digital assets are tagged appropriately. And then I want to compare and contrast the difference between organic search and paid search. And then finally, explore some trends in search, voice, and visual. And I want you to create a search engine before. Search engine optimization is very complicated. And I am not at all an expert in this field, so I'm going to give you some very, very basic information. So what is a search engine? Basically, what was the last thing you searched anywhere on the internet? Whether it was on your mobile device, your laptop, your tablet, your watch. What was the last thing you searched? So you probably went to Google or some other search engine and you plugged it in. I think the last thing that I searched earlier this morning was Italian recipes. So let's say I go into Google and I look at Italian recipes, and I have placed my word in. The site that I choose, or the engine, the search site I choose, like google.com, was the search site. I searched Italian food. Now, there are search engines that feed the search sites. And what search engines do is that they index individual pages on all of the websites that they have access to. So that is what a search engine does. It's surfing the web, it's scraping all of these disparate pages, and it is ranking them based on keywords. And then finally, you may have heard of a search directory. A search directory is one of those things where you put in a keyword, you click on it, and it takes you to a number of different websites that you can use. So let's talk about search engine feeds. So there's two major search engines. There's Google, obviously, that we all know, and there's Bing. And the search engine Google feeds AOL and Comcast and other search engines. So if you go into AOL, it's actually being fed by Google. If you go into Yahoo, it's being fed by Bing. So that really is the difference between the search site is the one you go into to put in your keyword, and then the engine is the algorithms that are scraping that. So in this case, Google and Bing. So search engines don't just think about a Google search or a keyword search on some search site. You also do search sites on YouTube, Craigslist, Facebook, eBay, Amazon. Oftentimes, if you are looking for a particular product, you may start with one of these other product search sites as opposed to Google. So this is what's really important for you to understand is that each of these search engines or search sites are the site you plug your keywords into. You can see here that 92, almost 91 or 91.5% of all searches start on Google, which means that we really need to understand the Google algorithm, and we need to optimize your web properties to be able to be indexed by Google. There's some others here, Bing, Yahoo, Baidu, Yandex, and some others that have been growing. Bing and Yahoo obviously are not growing, but Baidu and Yandex, they're growing in popularity, but they still don't have the reach that Google does. So that is why we as marketers look at the Google algorithm. So what exactly is a Google algorithm? You probably heard about this before. So it is the ranking system that sorts through all of the web pages out there and indexes the most relevant, useful results. And these ranking systems are made up of a whole series of algorithms. So there's not just one. There's lots of algorithms within Google, and they interact with one another. And so there's a lot of different things that the algorithms look for. It looks for keywords, relevance and usability of the web pages on your sites, expertise of sources, and locations and settings. So each factor, depending on the nature of what you're searching for, is taken into consideration. So one example of that is how frequently you change your content could play a bigger role in whether or not you are going to be higher up in organic search or not. So I wanted to just give you a couple of definitions here. So the meaning of your query, meaning, let's say, Italian food, has language models. That's what it is called, the meaning of your query. Relevance to web pages are keywords. And then there is quality of content, which looks at expertise, authoritativeness, and trust. And we'll look at that later. And then it also looks at pain points on particular sites. For example, if you have errors, if you have loading problems on your site, these things are going to take away from your ranking. And then obviously context and settings. So where you are you global? Are you doing a local search? What is somebody's search history or search settings that you have? So all of these 5 components make up a Google algorithm. So I talked a little bit about expertise, authoritative, and trust. And this is where the optimization piece really comes into play. So Google looks for things to make sure that you're relevant and you're trustworthy. So one of the things is that you need, if you're in a particular field, whether you're medical, financial, legal, restaurant, whatever it could be, you have to have, if you are an expert in your field, Google looks for that. They look for pieces of information on your site that indicate that you are an expert in your field. So they're trying to determine whether you are just like an everyday blogger with no credentials in that particular field, or are you an expert? They're also going to, and this is evaluated by the content that you provide. So say, for example, you have a number of videos out there on your website that you've created for your particular field. You are probably going to be considered an expert if based, compared to somebody who perhaps just has advertising about on their webpage about who they are and what they do. So it's evaluated through content, and it's also important to know that it isn't just the keywords on your site. There's visible text, your images, your videos, your meta elements that really go into meta tagging each of the creative assets on your site. So expertise is the first part of EAT. Authoritativeness is, what is your reputation among other experts and in influencers in the industry? Are you the go-to person? Are you the expert in the field on the topic? Or, if you have lots of people coming to your website looking for your expertise, obviously you are going to rank higher. And then links, external citation authority. Are your links relevant and accurate? So if you have a URL that talks about medical, there's medical in there, but you have nothing about medical on your web pages, you're likely not going to be considered an authority. And then trust. How legitimate is the content on your site? How accurate is it? Are you authentic? Are you who you say you are? Do you include contact information, or is it just a dead end? And then, is your site secure? These are the things that make up some of the importance in the Google algorithm as it scrapes your pages. So this is from earlier this year, and one of the things that Google added was Google will suspend merchants' sites that show higher prices at checkout than they do other places. So if that is the case, you're going to be booted out of the search. Google may not display web stories that are teasers. So again, they're specifically looking at your content, at your copy, at your stories, your assets on your website, and it can impact if they don't believe you're trustworthy. They're not. You don't get to participate. Another is your money, your life. Now, your money, your life is really about those important decisions. Say, for example, it is you need medical advice, or maybe mental health, or adoption, safety, parenting advice. All of these financial advice, all of these types of things have a special look at them. So make sure that if you are in any of these fields, that you need to be sure that you're following best practices, that you are following EAT, because they have a special look at them. So you might think, okay, this is a lot of really good information. How does all this work? Well, this is not where I'm an expert, because I am not a coder by any means. I can read it, but I can't write it. So anyway, every piece of information that you have on your website that you want to have included within the rankings need to be coded. So think of that as keywords. So keywords are searched by the engines. And one important thing is your URL is very important. So you might have something like each page is going to have your domain name / the page of the name. So each of your page is going to be indexed separately, not just your home page, or it's not going to read everything on your site. Then you have to tag. Meta tags are very important, because you want to include within your meta tags the things that people may search on. So for example, if you're interested in pickleball, or you are a pickleball company, your meta tags are going to include pickleball, playing pickleball, pickleball equipment, everything you need to know about pickleball. You want to make sure that those different types of keywords are tagged differently. And then you have a description tag, and this is the name. Content is about pickleball equipment, schedules, everything, etc. So your goal is to find the keywords that are most likely to resonate with your audience, that they're going to log into the search engine, so that you get optimized higher. And that's called ranking. So I just have here for your viewing pleasure, but we're not going to go through this, is what an optimized page looks like. So you're not only going to have a special URL for your page, you're going to have your title tags, your description, you're going to have tags on every single video, any other assets that make sense, including visuals that you would tag for your assets. So that's the ideal page optimization. Okay. So imagine you have everything coded now. You got your keywords, you got all of your creative assets are coded, etc. Um, there's two types of search. There's organic search, which is what we call the free stuff, right? You're not paying anything. And so when you go into a website, so I used to work at Honeywell, and one of the products, one of many categories we were in security cameras. So if I were to type in security camera, everything that goes below anything that says ad or any of the paid Googles comes down here. So organic ranking is everything below the ads. So your goal is to be present as near the top in your organic search. So security cameras is a very populated category. There's hundreds and hundreds of different suppliers. So being able to optimize the website to be able to rank the highest was always a challenge, in that you're going to work on it every day to make sure that you are going to get one of those top spots. Now, paid is a little bit differently. So paid are the Google AdWords that you're going to have, and so here I'm putting in Honeywell security camera, so you can say what I want to do is I want to make sure that if I'm using my brand name with a security camera, I'm going to pay for that top spot. So I'm going to pay Google for AdWords or for advertising or paid promotion on here. So what you'll see is there's no organic search on here, but in the case of Honeywell security cameras, you also over here could possibly do your pay-per-click advertising, your sponsored ads. So if somebody were typing on my Honeywell security camera, I would want to make sure that I am bidding on those keywords, because the last thing I want anyone to do in this particular case, most of these are all we're all providers of ours. I would want to make sure that I get as many spots as possible if somebody's putting in my Honeywell security camera. If they were putting in, Ring doorbell, if I were Ring, I would want to make sure that if somebody is specifically looking for me, that I'm going to outbid the competition. So here you would say Honeywell thermostat. So in this case, here is the difference between what we paid for. So we paid for anything up here, and we paid for the sponsored ads. And then we also wanted to optimize as best as we can all of our web pages so we would be at the top organically. So here you can see the difference between paying and organically. Or organic search. So you have to kind of think about, based on your category, based on what you're trying to accomplish. If I were Nest, who is a competitor to Honeywell in the thermostat field, I may bid on Honeywell's keyword. There's nothing stopping me from being the top bidder for Honeywell thermostat. And sometimes they did, but we would set up our Google ad to be able to always be the top. And that can be very expensive, but if you are the key player in a particular field, you may want to do that. Okay, just a couple other things about what's going on. So voice search, as you know, with all of these smart speakers that we have available to us, not only in our homes, in our car, on our phones, where people are constantly listening to us, whether we like it or not, it is happening. And with the increase of smart home speakers within our workplaces and our homes, we search at least once a day. I've just seen some new reports that said up to 3 times a day, and I did talk about that when we had our digital channel topic a few weeks ago. So let's think about voice as being a search engine as well. So that is something you'll want to think about. Would somebody say something differently to Alexa than they would typing it into Google? Now, visual search is those things that all of the digital assets that you have that can be searched on. So think about that. Also, if you're using your camera somewhere, There could potentially be some visual search there, but this is up and coming. What's great, but they have rolled out visual search for iOS. So I know that was some really pretty basic information, but I want you to really be able to think about now, how are you going to discuss or make a recommendation on a search engine strategy for your clients? I want you to think about, how is the website currently optimized with the Google algorithm? And, is this something you could handle on your own, or is this something you would rather hire out to an expert? So those are the types of things I want you to think about. Start working on the SEO analysis for your SEO assignment. And as always, if you have questions or comments, feel free to leave me a comment here under this video, or if you would like, email me in Canvas. And as always, if you would help me out by subscribing to my YouTube channel, I have many, many different topics of interest from the Marketing Doctor, so feel free to do that. I hope you have a great day,